Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to talk to you at a very important time where Sri Lanka is going through a huge transition. I had my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and every birthday time I normally make some packets of rice and go and distribute to people. So this time also 2 weeks ago, I went around the city distributing them. I normally go and give it to not necessarily beggars, but the people who work on the roadside, people who are cleaning, sweeping, selling tickets, etc., etc. I got little late and I went around 3 o'clock and I had 50 parcels. I approached 50 people and asked them, have you had your lunch? 49 of them said no. And only one said, she has had lunch. So I gave the 50 people lunch and told that lady, you have it for dinner. That's the reality that we see in this country today. Recently concluded research says 33% of the people of this country are now eating one meal less than they used to eat 1 year ago. Today, when I was coming for this function, I got a call from Mrs. Tanya Abesundara, the chairman of United National Business Associations. She was highly distressed. She told me, Dr. Godahewa, I'm going to shut down my second plant this year, second factory, with 80 people. She said, I had about 600 people. I'm struggling to retain them. I had to shut down one plant and now I have to shut down my second plant. I don't know where I will end up. This is the reality with the small and medium sector businesses. Professor G.L. Pires last Monday showed us the island paper with 23 paratha announcements. And after that, I started checking papers. And Professor, for the last couple of days, I noticed more than 34 paratha executions this week alone. And do you know how many entrepreneurs we have in this country? Guess. We have a population of 21 million, less than 240 employers in this country. 240,000 people are employed of this country. They are the people who are providing all the other jobs. 8 million people are earning some kind of income, of which almost 6.5 million are working for somebody. And those people are employed by these people. And when you kill those entrepreneurs, what happens? It's not easy to create a new entrepreneur. So this is what is happening in this country. And despite all these things, our people are saying things are settling down. Things are getting better. Isn't it? Isn't it what you hear? Things are better than it used to be, they say. They pay 300 times more electricity bill than it used to be. Right? They pay much higher fuel bill than they used to pay. And just because there are no queues, they think things have improved. Nothing has improved, my friends. Everything had got worse. I often hear this word, inflation is coming down. So why the prices are not coming down? What does inflation mean? Inflation coming down doesn't mean prices are coming down. Inflation means the price of today compared to the price 1 year ago. So inflation coming down means that at the rate at which it goes up has come down. It is still going up. It is still going up. If it was 70% last year and 50% this year, that means it has gone up by 50% this year also. So a lot of people do not understand these technical jargons and get carried away when politicians come and say things are improving. I'd like you to think of the current government. What have they done? What have they done during the last 1 year since Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe became president? Has he done anything remarkable? Something that is unusual? Something that is so creative? He has done one thing. He has not done the mistakes that the previous president did during the last 2 years. But what has he done anew? Let me tell you what he has done. The current government has introduced something called cost recovery by increasing the prices of utilities. So they have raised the prices of fuel, they have raised the prices of gas, they have raised the price of electricity, and they are recovering the cost. And you and I are paying for that. Major achievement, is it? Then they've increased the government revenue. By doing what? By increasing taxes. You are paying much more taxes than you used to pay today. Direct taxes as well as indirect taxes. So the entire nation is now paying more taxes, and the government is happily saying we have increased the government revenue. Have they increased the GDP? No. Last year 8% negative, this year first quarter 11.5% negative. That's their performance. And we are paying, and they are saying their revenue has gone up. Then they control the demand for dollar by doing what? Controlling imports. Severe restrictions on imports. What is the outcome? You may think the dollar is controlled, but so many people have lost their livelihoods. But imports is an industry. There are so many people who are dependent on imports. So when you control imports, people lose their jobs. People lose their livelihoods. You can't do that in an economy. Imports and exports both are important for an economy. So then, another remarkable achievement. They talk about controlling inflation by increasing interest rates. A governor very proudly used to say, now we have to contract the economy. We have to increase the interest rates and bring down the inflation. But why do you do that in economics? You normally do that when you want to control the money circulation. Have they controlled the money circulation? They have increased the interest rates and got so many small and medium sector businesses wiped out. But at the same time, 212 billion money printed. Money printing has not stopped. Government borrowing has not stopped. Money circulation, they're not controlled. So why this increase of interest? Huge mistake, which has killed so many employees during the last 1 year, with no purpose being achieved. Those who went bankrupt have gone bankrupt. They can't come back. People whose properties have been sold will leave this country. People who are leaving this country because of these high interest rates are not going to come back. More than 1,000 doctors, more than 1,000 engineers have left the country during the last 1 year. That's the reality. So what they haven't done, what has the president not done during the last 1 year? Think about that. In a crisis like this, when the world went through a crisis like this, in 2007, 2008, world went through a crisis like this. USA went through a crisis like this. What did they do? They stimulated the economy. Quantitative easing, remember those words? They stimulated the economy. Got people to do more economic activities. So that is what we should have done during the last 1 year. Stimulating entrepreneurship and driving growth. We haven't done that at all. Then, controlling expenditure. What have we done to control expenditure? We appointed state ministers who have no jobs. Who are just sitting there with a staff of about 15 people, with about 3 vehicles each person, but no responsibility. That's how we control expenditure. This is just one example. Military tamashas, every month president is attending some kind of military function. Those days he used to eat our war heroes. He sent his people to Geneva to fix them those days. He said war can never be won. Now today, every time you look at the TV, he said some kind of a function, military function. And now they're talking about expanding military, strengthening the military more. To fight whom? Fight you and I? Probably. I can't think of anything else. So the expenditure, as Professor G.L. Pires very rightly said, has not come down. Then one of the things that he should have done, one of the most important things, was rapid reforms. In what? In the 3 revenue collecting institutes. That is where bulk of the wastage happens. That is where everybody knows, improve those 3 areas. That you can increase the revenue without increasing taxes. Nothing has been done. Income tax department, excise department, customs. What has happened? Have you heard anything during the last 1 year about improvements about these institutes? Shouldn't that have been the absolute priority of the government in a crisis like this? That has not happened. Then, export industries. What was our problem? Why did we go bankrupt? We went bankrupt because we couldn't manage a $2 billion deficit a year. Our balance of payment roughly about 2 billion. For the last 10 years or so, it has been the case. It went up only when there was COVID issue, because tourism came down. Otherwise, 2 billion good enough to manage our balance of payment crisis. So we couldn't just manage that. All we could have done was to concentrate on tourism, concentrate on our export industry, find that 2 billion. And that we didn't do. Tourism. We had in 2018 4.5 billion income from tourism. Now the world tourism has started. People are traveling like crazy. After COVID, people are waiting for a long period. Now people are traveling. This is the time we must have a focused tourism development program. What do we see? Do we see anything that is productive? Usual talk about new taglines and all this crap, but no focus, product development. For product development in the country, anybody's talking about? How are we going to attract new tourists? No, nothing is happening. Then, when the president made his, crown speech, he spoke about human capital development. He said we are going to create the world's best workforce. Words only. What have we done? Last 1 year, anything done to upgrade the skills of our people who are going abroad to work? Nothing has been done. So those are the things that are not done. The things that they did haven't done anything for the country. But we are happy because there are no fuel queues, because there are no electricity cuts, because there are no gas cuts. Why? Electricity, there's no need for cuts. Electricity prices have gone up by 300%. The cost is recovered. Demand has significantly come down. Now there's no demand supply issue for electricity. Fuel, demand has significantly come down because the industries are dead. Gas, people have moved to different products. People are not using gas the way they used to use. So demand and supply. So there are no queues, obviously, because you have no money to travel anymore. You can't go on trips like you used to go before because you're paying 36% tax. That's the reality. Right. Now, I want to talk about this. What does this government do? What is the problem in our country? Our problems in the country: corruption, waste, inefficiency, lack of vision, poor planning. Aren't they the problems that we have had? All these things that we have had for the last 75 years, those are the problems we have had, right? Now, those problems are like rocks hidden under a lake. In the lakes, there's water, and below that there are rocks now, right? So these are like rocks hidden under the lake. And if you assume there's a ship sailing on the lake, and if the water level is high, the captain of the ship doesn't have to worry about the rocks because they're far below, right? But if the water level comes down, what happens? If the water level comes down to the level of the rocks, he has to be careful. He has to be careful in navigating his ship. He has to maybe fight with these rocks, destroy them, and then only move forward. A country is also like this, right? When the government has no pressure on revenue, it doesn't have to worry about the rocks that are hidden, about the inefficiency, about the corruption, about the wastage, because the government has been borrowing heavily. It had enough money to spend, right? And now what does this government do? It's taxing you, right? They're also borrowing. The only solution is borrowing. So they're keeping the water level high. So unless the water level comes down, there's no pressure to solve these problems. So all these problems we have had for the last 75 years will continue to be there. Everything else is just words. So unless you put pressure on the government, or rather the government takes pressure on itself, they are not going to solve these problems. I told you a lot of things that they have not done. They will never do those things unless there's sufficient pressure on them to go and address those issues. Now what does the government do now? What is government's solution for this problem with IMF? The so-called miraculous solution is a farce. Because that's the easiest solution that they're going for. Let me explain. Not many people understand this. Now, what is IMF agreement? IMF's agreement is giving you some funds and give you credibility so that you can go and borrow more. That's all what IMF does. It gives you credibility, saying that, okay, you have your debt sustainability, but you go and borrow more. Right? Now, we have had $45 billion worth of foreign debts as of now. That's the current situation. Now, IMF tells us, okay, we will give you 3 billion. World Bank and ADB will give another 3.75 billion. And you start with that, right? Go and start issuing ISBs after some time. And then you go and ask your debtors to cut down their debts a little bit so that your burden comes down. That is the proposal. Let me give you the numbers. Without confusing you, I will repeat this again, right? Let's look at the numbers. How does this solution works, right? Do you know how much we have to pay during the next 5 years? During the next 5 years, we have to, starting from this year, 2023, and up until 2027, we have to pay 28 billion US dollars. 5.6 billion a year, right? Last year we didn't pay. We paid 3 billion. We were supposed to pay 7 billion. We paid only 3 billion during the first quarter. After that, we didn't pay. 4 billion, we didn't pay. That is why you thought the life is normal. Life was not normal. You are simply not paying your debt. Now this year also, we have come to the mid of the year. Life is normal. We are happy. Why? Because we have not started paying our debts. The moment you start paying debts, unless you have increased your income source, unless you have figured out how to pay these debts, you are going to be under pressure much more than we faced in 2022. මම එක සිංහලෙන්ම කියන්නම් තේරෙන්න මේ අපේ මීඩියා වලට ගෙවන්න තියෙන ණය ප්‍රමාණය. මේ 2023න් පටන් අරගෙන 2027 වෙනකන් ඉතුරු අවුරුදු 5 තුල අපිට තියෙනවා ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් බිලියන 28ක් ණය ගෙවන්න. ඒක අපිට නොගෙව ඉන්න බෑ. මොකද IMF ගිවිසුමේ පැහැදිලිවම කියලා තියෙනවා මේ ණය අපි ගෙවන්නට ඕනේ කියලා. කියන්නේ දැන් අපාය ඉන්ටර්වල් එක ඉවරයි. දැන් අපි ණය ගෙවන්න පටන් ගන්නට ඕනේ. එතකොට මේ ණය ගෙවීම සඳහා ආණ්ඩුවේ සැලැස්ම මොකක්ද? ආණ්ඩුවේ සැලැස්ම මහන්සි වෙලා සල්ලි හම්බ කරලා අපනයන වර්ධනය කරලා මේ ණය ගෙවන එක නෙවෙයි. ආණ්ඩුවේ සැලැස්ම ගිහිල්ලා වැඳලා අර ණය හිමියන්ට ණය ටිකක් කපාගෙන තව කාටරි වැඳලා ණය ටිකක් අරගෙන මේ වැඩේ ගොඩ යන තමයි ආණ්ඩුව හදන්නේ. මම ඔයාලට සංඛ්‍යා කියන්නම්. මේ බිලියන 28 ඒ කියන්නේ අවුරුද්දට ඩොලර් බිලියන 5.6ක් ගෙවන්න ඕන කියලා මම කිව්වනේ. මේක ගෙවන්න යන්නේ කොහොමද? පළවෙනි එක ආණ්ඩුව බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේ ඩොලර් බිලියන 28න් ඩොලර් බිලියන 14ක් අපේ ණය හිමියන්ට වැඳලා ඒ අය කැමති කරගන්න කපහරින්. කැමති වෙයි කියලා තාම අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා ඩොලර් බිලියන 14ක් කපහරින්. එතකොට ඊට අමතරව බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා දැන්ටම ඔයාලා දන්නවා IMF එකෙන් 2.9 බිලියන් කියලා 3 බිලියන් ණයක් ලැබෙනවා. World Bank එකකින් සහ ADB එකකින් තව 3.75 හම්බ වෙනවා. එතකොට 6.75 ණයක් කවන. මේව ණය අපි කවදාද ගෙවන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ආධාරනේ මම දකිනවා මීඩියා වල යනවා මේ ආධාර කියලා. මුල්‍ය ආධාර කියලා. මුල්‍ය ආධාර නෙවෙයි මේවා. මේවා ණය. මේවා එන්නේ ඉන්ට්‍රස්ට් එක කීයද කියලා දන්නවද? IMF ණය එන්නේ 105ක ණය පොලියකට. ඉතාමත් පිළ පොලියකට. මේවා ලැබෙන්නේ. මේවා අපි ආපහු ගෙවන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඊළඟට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන තව 3 බිලියන් එකක් බිලියන 3ක් කල් දා ගන්නට. මේ අවුරුදු 5 තුල. එතකොට ඊට අමතරව බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා පස්වෙනි අවුරුද්දට ආපුවම ආයෙත් ගිහිල්ලා අර ඉස්සර අපි කරපු පවකාර වැඩේ ස්වෛරි බැඳුම් කර නිකුත් කරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ කෙටි කාලීන විදේශ ණය ලබා ගන්න එතනක් තියෙනවා බිලියන 2ක් සැලසුවා. මේ ඔක්කොම ඩොලර් බිලියන 25යි. ඩොලර් බිලියන 28ක් ගෙවන්න තියෙනවා. ඩොලර් බිලියන 3ක පරතරයක් තියෙනවා. මේ පරතරය පියවන්නේ කොහොමද? මේ පරතරය පියවන්න ගියම තමයි වික්‍රමසිංහ එන්නේ. හරි? මේ පරතරය පියවන්න තමයි ටෙලිකොම් එක විකුණන්නේ, ශ්‍රී ලංකා ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එක විකුණන්නේ, ලිට්‍රෝ ගෑස් එක විකුණන්නේ, ලංකා හොස්පිටල් එක විකුණන්නේ, මේ රටේ තියෙන සියලුම දේපළ ටික විකුණන්න මේ දැස් තියෙන්නේ මේ ඉතුරු ටික ණය ටික ගෙවා ගන්න. මේ විදිහට ණය ගෙවලා ඉවරනම අවුරුදු 5යි. හැබැයි අපි අවුරුදු 5ට මේ රටේ ජනතාව ජීවත් වෙනවා. නේද? අපිට අනාගත පරම්පරාවක් තියෙනවා. ඒ මොකද කරන්නේ? මේ ගොඩ ගහන ණය ටික මේ අලුතෙන් ගොඩ ගහන ණය ටික ගෙවන්න ඕනේ කවුද? අනාගත පරම්පරාව. ඒගොල්ලෝ මොනවයි කොල්ලද මේවා ගෙවන්නේ? මේවා තමයි මහත්තුරුනේ දැන් ඉතුරු වෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ. මම දැන් දිග කතාවක් කියන නිසා මම තාමත් ගෙටින් ඉවර කරන්න කියලා දැන් මේ මාතෘකාවට අදාළව ජනාධිපතිතුමා පහුගිය දවසක් කතාවක් කරලා එතුමාගේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති ඉදිරිපත් කරා. මම හිතන්නේ 4 වෙනි වතාවට නැත්නම් 5 වෙනි වතාවට අලුත් ප්‍රතිපත්ති මාලාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කරා ජනාධිපති වුණාට පස්සේ. මොකද එතුමා මාස දෙකකට පාරක් අලුත් එකක් කියනවනේ. දැන් මේ පාර කුළුණු 4ක් ගැන මතකද? ප්‍රතිපත්ති එතුමා වාචික ප්‍රතිපත්ති කුළුණු 4ක්. මොනවද මේ කුළුණු 4? Financial, fiscal and financial reforms, investment drive, social protection and governance, state-owned enterprises transformation. All good. All good. But is it going to solve the problem? No, that's not good enough. That's not going to be good enough because there's nothing in this about growth. There's nothing in this about the SME sector. There's nothing in about the businesses that you're working for. So therefore, what is missing? Let me tell you what is missing. What is missing is stimulating the entrepreneurship and creating a fair market is not there, which is absolutely essential if you want to get out of this mess. Unless we grow our economy, we are always going to be beggars like this. So that is missing. Then modernizing and digitalizing the economy, missing. Because entire world is modernizing, entire world is changing. Nothing in this 4 pillars. Then making human capital development state priority, because that's the only way we can get out. That's the only resource we have. I heard he himself saying, that's the only resource we have. Then nothing about human capital development. And expand and facilitate access to capital. If you want to develop businesses, they have to be given access to capital. කොටස් වෙළඳපොළ වහලා දාලා කියනවා කියන මානසිකත්වයෙන් අපිට ප්‍රාග්ධන වෙළඳපොළ දිනු කරන්න බෑ. අපි ප්‍රාග්ධන වෙළඳපොළ දිනු කරන්න ඕනේ. මේ මිනිසුන්ට සල්ලි ගන්න ක්‍රම හොයලා දෙන්න ඕනේ. අවසානයේ අර චරිතහිරත් මහත්මයාට කියපු කතන්දරේ fostering sustainable and inclusive development. Development is not what these neoliberals talk about, getting few people getting richer and GDP is going up. It has to be inclusive. It has to be distributed. So that is missing here. So this is the current situation. So I will answer any questions during the panel session. Thank you very much for inviting us.